Welcome along to episode 20 of the Hong Kong Racing Show. Andrew Brown with you, not only with my regular co-host Alex Evers, who is currently in Hong Kong, but also our special guest this week, Tim Carroll, joining us from sunny England. Welcome back to the show, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know what weather forecast you're being looking at, but yeah, sunny it certainly is not, Brownie, not over here.
I always refer to it as sunny England. It's a beautiful place. Lived there for a few years back in the day. We are, of course, early this week. The show that is, with it being Chinese New Year, and a special Friday card coming up at Sha Tin. That's Thursday night North American time. Alex, you've been gallivanting around the world, but no doubt happy to be back in Honkers and looking forward to a really big race day at Sha Tin on Friday.
Kong Hei Fat Choi, boys. It's a big day. It's going to be 100,000 people at the races. I can't wait to get out there.
Bit of Cantonese coming at us as well. Thank you very much for that, Alex. We'll get you to say that again at the end of the show and teach us all how to say Happy New Year, Happy Chinese New Year in Cantonese. All right, we're going to preview a few of the big feature races at Sha Tin shortly. But before that, a few news items to get through. Starting, of course, with Romantic Warrior, who won his Middle East debut in Dubai last week in superb fashion, smashing the track record in a dominant display to take out the Group 1 Jebel Hatta in Meydan. Tim, your assessment of that performance of Romantic Warrior?
Yeah, look, I think we've got to remember, unfortunately, the defending champion went wrong in that race, and we all know what happened there, and that was very sad. But if we just put that over there for a moment, the performance of Romantic Warrior was superb. If anything, I think he might even be getting better with age. It doesn't matter where they take him, whether it be Japan, Australia, now to Dubai, obviously in Hong Kong. He just turns up and he runs to such a high level. I thought it was an outstanding performance. It's going to be really interesting to see how he goes on the dirt in Saudi. And, well, depending on that, I suppose we'll find out after Saudi whether he's going to come back for the Dubai World Cup or the Dubai Turf, which, of course, if he goes to the Turf and he wins that, he gets the big bonus as well, the Jebel Hatta and Dubai Turf a bonus that they've recently introduced. But, yeah, I thought it was an outstanding performance from an outstanding horse.
Yeah, absolutely. Group 1 wins now in Hong Kong, Australia, Japan, and Dubai, and who knows, possibly in Saudi as well coming up. I was just looking at the latest Saudi Cup odds, boys, and nothing's really changed since Romantic Warriors win in Meydan last week. Of course, now transitioning to the dirt, as Tim just mentioned, but Forever Young there at 5-2, Sierra Leone 7-2, second favourite, White Barrio after the Pegasus win last weekend 6-1, Laurel River 7-1 despite going down at Meydan, still 8-1 about Romantic Warrior. Alex, I was going to ask you, is there any sense you were there in Dubai talking to the camp about transitioning into this Saudi dirt? And of course, we have discussed on the show previously that if you're going to try dirt for the first time, this is the dirt to do it on.
So two things was Tim is right in that this horse I was looking at photos of him when he ran against Golden 60 in the Gold Cup, and he's a completely different horse physically. Like, he's filled out, he's bigger. He just seems to love the travel. And we were photographing him grazing, and he just looked like the happiest horse. And I saw some videos of him galloping this morning, and he looked absolutely wonderful. So to me, I think he is improving and he's getting better with age. Beyond that, though, going back to the quote unquote dirt in Saudi, I was talking to Michael Adolphson, and he's like, it's not really dirt. Like, whatever the mixture they have, it's not synthetic, but it's also not a traditional dirt track like you would see in the United States or what Meydan is. And personally, after walking on that Meydan track and watching how it played on Friday night last week, I'd love to see him go back to the turf. I think that dirt track there gets a little bit biased and a little favored to speed horses on the inside. Laurel River was dead short. Samir said he was kind of a work short, and there was no way that he would have been able to compete in the 1900 Al Maktoum Challenge. And it really reflected in that last 100 meters where he looked like he was looking for an Uber to get to the finish line there. But I think in that Saudi Cup, and I'm going to ask Mike Smith when I get back to Santa Anita on Saturday what he thought of it, because he rode there last weekend. But I think if he's going to win on a dirt track, this is going to be the time he does it. And the way it plays, it looks like it plays like a turf track, basically. I mean, we saw Rattle and Roll, son of Connect. He kind of came from mid-pack there over the last 250 meters. And I don't see why Romantic Warrior couldn't do that. I mean, his turn of foot was absolutely incredible in Dubai. And before measured time had gone amiss, he had caught him and was already kind of going past him and pulling away. It was an absolutely incredible performance, and he just keeps getting better and better. And again, with him being a happy, healthy horse, if he can stay sound and he stays happy, I don't see anybody that's going to beat him, to be honest.
More than 23 million US in prize money now. He's the world's highest earner, and there's plenty more to come. Obviously, Saudi Cup, the world's richest race. So he's going to smash some records if he wins that. Tim, in terms of the greatest horses that we've ever seen, Romantic Warrior's got to start being in that conversation, hasn't he?
It kind of depends on how you look at it, because if you're talking about pure ability, I'd still think horses like Flightline from America and a Frankel probably, I would go back as far as Secretariat are the two best horses I've seen if you're talking about actual ability. I mean, I think one of them rated about 144 and the other one 146. But then when you have a look at his CV, and you've got to give credit to the connections. I know that Japan, Australia, Dubai, they've got the big purses over there, but in Hong Kong they got massive purses. He's by far and away the best horse at his trip over there, so they could stay at home and just mop up and make a mozza. But they're taking on some serious competition. They're taking on the challenge of travel, I should say. If you're talking about all-time great horses, his CV is exceptional, and I think now his rating's very, very high. So I think he's one of the best we've seen since the turn of the century. I wouldn't have him there with a Flightline or a Frankel, if I'm being honest, on pure ability. But his CV, and I know we can say Frankel won in Europe, and obviously he won a Guineas in ridiculous fashion. But if you look at Flightline, I think, and Alex could tell us it was only 6 runs. He was a big unit. They had some troubles with him. So if you're talking about CV, I'd say his CV's right there. Now, 2 hemispheres, as you said, 4 different countries, one over the mile, one over a mile and a quarter, one over a mile and a half in Hong Kong. He's an exceptional racehorse. If I could just add one further thing to him running on dirt, unlike City of Troy in America, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know what the setup is at Coolmore, but I don't think they've got a dirt track there. He came over the Southwell, which is an all-weather track, to have a gallop. You've got to remember that Romantic Warrior has not only trialled, he has trialled superbly on the dirt at Sha Tin. So whilst I know it's a trial and that's got to be taken with a pinch of salt, it's not race day conditions, he's not going onto the dirt for the first time. He's been on a dirt track, and as Alex said, my understanding is, I went over to the Saudi Cup for the first one. I spoke to a couple of the American riders, and they were saying it was a wonderful track, and a lot of the jockeys there were saying that horses that go well on turf go well on this track. And you've only got to think back to John Gosden and Misriff, who went over there. He excelled on that track.
Yeah, the thing to me about Flightline versus Romantic Warrior is Flightline never ran against a horse like Golden 60. The competition that Flightline was running against, albeit he was just going to the front, he was doing it on pure talent and time alone, but he's never faced the type of horses that Romantic Warrior has faced, and we'll see. I mean, that's the best part about racing, right? Is that we get to form these opinions, we get to see them play out on the race course, and what he's done since he got beat by Golden 60 twice, but he can go all over the world. And I'm being a super fan of Golden 60 here. Never beat the horse. He couldn't get over him. But since then, he's never lost a photo finish. He's just been an absolute warrior, so to speak. The name is so fitting. I seriously think they're going to have to bring their running shoes to beat this horse in Saudi. I think he's going to handle that track. And
you'd love to see him in Europe, wouldn't you? I put it up on social media. It's a funny thing, when I put up on social media saying Australian horse or American horse, I'd love to see them in Europe. People understandably jump on, the European horses are the mile and a quarter, they're the best in the world, apart from maybe one old Japanese horse, wouldn't get near our lot. And that's the sort of feedback you get. With this fella, a lot of them actually came on and said, wouldn't it be great to see him over here? So now he's got this, because he's travelled, he's got this worldwide fan base, and he's very popular. A little bit like I say, believe it or not, boys, Winx didn't really hit the mark over here with the locals because she never came over, whereas Black Caviar, they all love her. Even though she put in, by her standards, a fairly poor performance, she still came over and won. So they really love a horse like Black Caviar. Winx, they didn't really want to. With Romantic Warrior, even though he hasn't been over here, but because he's travelled the world, even the Europeans who believe, and rightfully so, that they've got the best turf horses in the world over a mile and a quarter and up, even they are warming to this fella. Well, not just warming to him, they love him.
Well,
I'll say this too about his... sorry, Brian. I'll say this about his pedigree too. If you look at the bottom line, he's got Street Cry, Hailing, Sing Spiel. I mean, horses that had success over the dirt too. So you could say that he has maybe a chance, right?
Oh, well, Mick Kinane sourced him, didn't he? I think he was brought over
Yep.
here somewhere,
Right.
or being sent over to Hong Kong. Look, I've got no doubt that he would be hugely competitive in any mile and a quarter race over here. I don't think they're going to come over here. I'm just saying it would be great to see.
I think everybody's wishing that they'll come to their jurisdiction. Obviously, you'd love to see Romantic Warrior in Europe. We'd love to see Romantic Warrior maybe at Del Mar in the Breeders' Cup, particularly if he goes well on dirt in Saudi and possibly even Dubai. I saw Michael Browell interviewed the other day. He's the CEO of the Moonee Valley Race Club, where Romantic Warrior won the Cox Plate in 2023. Top of his wish list for the international horses to come back for 2025, Romantic Warrior. He did not hesitate to say that he'd love to see Romantic Warrior. I should just give a shout out to J-Mac too. We haven't spoken about him because Romantic Warrior wasn't only his only winner on the night at Dubai last weekend. His first ever ride in Dubai was a winner, Meydan in the Group 2 Al Fahidi Ford, and then he finished the night with a treble as well when Kafaf won the Group 2 Al Kalal Trophy. So, yeah, an incredible night for Hong Kong racing there in Dubai last week. We better move on from one superstar to another. Tim, I did want to actually get your thoughts too. It's been a couple of weeks now since Ka Ying Rising won the Centenary Sprint Cup at Sha Tin, following up from his Hong Kong Sprint victory in December with that emphatic win. Breaking the track record once again. Alex was there. He witnessed it all. But your thoughts? Were you blown away like the rest of us?
Oh, come on, can I be a smart ass for a moment? I've been telling you guys for 8 months this is the most naturally gifted horse in the world, and I stand by that. I copped a bit of stick on social media when I said that, and rightfully so, because he hadn't been around in the Group 1 at that point. But what I was trying to say is, okay, again, he hasn't got the CV of a Via Sistina or even a Laurel Park or let alone a Romantic Warrior. But if you're talking about pure natural ability, I think this horse is an absolute freak. He reminds me so much of Black Caviar in the way he runs. And what I mean by that, and we saw that in his last start, and if Alex was there, he can tell us a little bit more in a moment, but he jumps from an outside gate. Zac burns him early to get across to lead, and believe you me, they go quick in those sprints over Hong Kong. And then he's got the audacity to find some sort of gear that very few horses have to kick off that ridiculous speed that he set to win easy peasy. Time form have got him on, I think, 129 at the moment. I think Black Caviar peaked at 136. I think he's going to end up somewhere in that area.
Tim, I've never seen a horse that goes that fast and doesn't look like he's exerting any effort whatsoever. It's unbelievable. It's wild.
Well, Black Caviar, that's what she would do. That's why he reminds me so much of her.
Yeah. And David Hayes, of course, Tim, as you would know, he has had some incredible horses over the decades that he has been training. And, I think he was trying to be conservative around HKIR, but I think now is starting to realize he's saying certainly the best sprinter that he's ever been involved in, potentially the best horse as well.
Look, I'll stand corrected. I remember probably just before International Day, he was saying, look, at this stage of his career, he's probably the best horse I've had. At this stage, he was saying. Then after that, he was saying he was the best sprinter. And then after his last start, I'm pretty sure, and I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw Nick Childs do a feature with David after he won the other day. And David said, he is now the best horse I've ever trained. And when you think that, David's won everything from Cox Plates to Japan Cups and everything in between. He's been a champion trainer in Australia, a champion trainer in Hong Kong. That's a pretty hefty statement.
Yeah. Gosh, we've got some exciting horses around at the moment, don't we? Ka Ying Rising. Of course, we're just talking about Romantic Warrior. Ka Ying Rising's Jockey 2, I should ask you, Tim. I think that was win number, for memory, maybe 1,811 for Zac when he won aboard Ka Ying Rising. Then went and broke the record the following Wednesday at Happy Valley. Alex, you missed out on it. Unfortunately, you're in Dubai at the time. You've been following Zac's career, Tim, for a long time now. As somebody that follows Australian racing, what's your thoughts on his achievement there in Hong Kong?
Oh, well, he's an all-time great. He comes from Lismore in New South Wales, which you'll probably know, Brownie. It's sort of, all respects to people in Lismore. I've got a sister that lives not too far away. It's sort of the back end of New South Wales. There's not much going on in Lismore. So he comes from a fairly humble background, and he was very successful in Australia. He goes over to Hong Kong. He said that he was originally going to go over to test the waters. Struggled a little bit at first because he had to get used to the system where you don't have a manager, and he actually said at one point, I wasn't getting rides, or at least I wasn't getting good rides. And then one of the trainers said to me, but you never ring us up for rides. And he had to do that in Australia. So he got on the phone, and after that, well, as they say, the rest is history. To break a record, you've got to remember we only race twice a week in Hong Kong. So to accumulate over 1,800 winners, and it took Douglas White, who was an outstanding rider, to set the record. And I think it was a record when it was set. Many of us kind of thought, well, that might not be broken in our lifetime. Well, it hasn't taken too long, and I don't know how long Zac will stick around. I know he likes the Hong Kong lifestyle. I would imagine while he's riding winners, it's no secret. It's probably from a bank account perspective, the best place in the world to be based as a jockey. So I think he'll be there for a while, and it'll be incredible to see what he finally ends up achieving. In a way, from a selfish perspective, I'd actually like to see him based over here for a couple of years on all these different type of European tracks against the local riders, because I know that he's got the ability, and I say this in a positive way. I also know that he's got the self-belief and the arrogance to succeed wherever he goes. And I don't mean arrogant in a bad way. He's always been very good with the media. But when he goes out in the race, and you guys will know this, you do a lot of race analysts, you just see some riders have got this sort of boss thing about them, where they boss the others a little bit. And that's Zac Purton. It don't matter who goes over there. It doesn't matter whether it's Frankie, whether it's Ryan Moore, whether it's James Mack. And all of them are wonderful riders. I'm not saying they're underneath Zac or anything like that, but he certainly doesn't go into a race thinking these guys are better than me, or they're going to get away with anything. If anything, it's the other way around. Zac treats them all the same. He's the king of Hong Kong, and he acts like it.
He doesn't feel pressure. Like in the biggest moments, he is just ice cold and chilly. And to bring it back to a North American audience, if you put him as Bob Baffert's stable rider on those horses, he'd win a Kentucky Derby in the United States, hands down. There's no question about it. He's so good out of the gate. He's so calm. He's so confident. He never is panicking ever in a race. And he just seems to get these horses in spots where they can be themselves and be successful and get into a rhythm and then kick home. He's really, really talented, and I hope the rest of the world gets to see, how good he really is. Because it doesn't matter if you're in Hong Kong, if you're in Ireland, Australia, UK, he would be a top guy anywhere in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And good to hear that he's been saying in some recent interviews and to us as well when we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, Alex, that his kind of health concerns have taken a turn for the better as well, his hip injury and all that kind of stuff. So with any luck, we'll see Zac riding for many, many more years to come. And so long as Ka Ying Rising is running around, I think he'll be doing everything he can.
Won't be in a hurry to leave there while that fella's going around, will he?
Exactly. All right, well, let's take a look at a few of the key races at Sha Tin on their special Chinese New Year race day card, Friday in Hong Kong, Thursday night North American time. We'll start with race 4, the Centenary Vase over the 9 furlongs on the turf. Number 1, Straight Aaron, as honest as the day is young. 2, Happy Together, ran well for second in the Group 3 January Cup last out at Happy Valley. 4, Chang Chang Glory, the pride of Iowa. God, he deserves a win at some point. 6, Ensued, back running after 4th in the Hong Kong Vase last out, and 7, Last City Blanche, another coming back out of the January Cup where he was 3rd from a wide post. The speed map shows Sword Point getting his way in front. Tim, you've been in good form. I saw you had a good few winners last week as well. There was the Boombox, gorgeous win, probably 1 or 2 I'm missing, but who do you like here?
Yeah, we have had a couple of good meetings actually, which is nice little turnaround. It can be tough. I think we've had 9 winners or 10 winners in the last 2 meets. But nice. I'm going to go with Happy Together. I know he hasn't won since I think March of last year, but he's kept some pretty good company. He was only 2.5 or 2 3/4 lengths in behind Voyage Bubble and Soul Rush in the Hong Kong Mile on International Day, which obviously is an exceptional run. And as good as this race is, it's not as good as that. When he got beaten at Happy Valley last time, it was in that Group 3, the only Group 3 that they, or the only pattern race they hold at Happy Valley during the course of the year. And I thought he was a tad unlucky, and I'm certainly not talking from my pocket because I actually put up the winner in my article. I'm not going to say he should have won because, to be fair, the winner had a fairly tough run, but he got into a little bit of trouble. I think, if I remember correctly, he was conceding the winner something like £18. a hell of a lot of weight. So no need, there's no doubt that if they were running off level weights, he would have won that day and won very easily. So, look, the negative is he hasn't won for a while, but he's drawn in 4 here. I know they have a nice long straight run from the 1800, but it still helps. He should get into a good spot. He got a long way out of his ground last time. He's not a pace horse, but I'd like to think from the 4 he'll be able to sit a bit closer here. And it's a very open-looking Vase, but I do think Happy Together will give you a heck of a run for your money.
Okay, Happy Together for Tim. What about you, Alex?
I'm on Ensued. He's just going to go with that romantic warrior form, and Purton gets on him. And then behind that, I like Happy Together and Straight Aaron. Straight Aaron seems to always kind of run his race. I just don't know if he's that type that's going to be winning a lot of races, but he always seems to be right there. Those are the 3 that I like.
All right, Happy Together for Tim, Ensued for Alex. I'm going to lean sort of the side of Ensued as well, coming out of HKIR. Let's move on to race 6, the Chinese New Year Cup, over 7 furlongs on the turf. One Healthy Happy, perhaps the hunch play for a New Year's resolution, boys, but it's been a long time between drinks for the Frankie Law trainee. 2 Drombeg Banner draws wide, but has plenty of pace. 3 Green and White. Certainly been racing consistently this campaign. 5 Young Champion, just beaten last up by Ruby Lot. Blinkers go on. And down the bottom, 11 Aurora Lady, up in class, but gets in light. Speed Map has Stromberg Banner getting over from the outside gate to lead over Healthy Happy. Tim, the 2 leaders have claiming apprentices on them and may play a game of catch me if you can. How are you going to light this candle?
Yeah, well, the £7 on Healthy Happy will help, and he's drawing in 4, which will also help. He also wears blinkers for the first time, but it's a wait and see for me with Healthy Happy. I just think he's been a little bit disappointing lately. It's a really wide open contest, the Chinese New Year Cup. I came down with 2, Green and White and Young Champion. I'm going to go with Green and White. He loves this trip. He's 4 from 10, 4 wins from 10, and he's only missed the frame on 1 occasion over the 7 furlongs. He ran very well in defeat behind Drombeg Witter last time out. He's on, I think, £3 worse terms here, but still, and then Drombeg Matter's also got the claimer on, but he's drawn out high and he's supposed to go forward. So I know, again, they've got a bit of a run to the first turn, but he's got a couple of things up against him. So, look, I thought Green and White with Hugh Bowman aboard from 2. I thought he'd get the run of the race, and I think that's going to be very helpful. And then you got Young Champion, very good run last time out, as you mentioned, behind Ruby Love. Interesting to see the blinkers go on. John Size doesn't tilt at windmills. He's a very shrewd trainer. If he's putting the blinkers on, chances are that will leak out some improvement. So they're the 2 for me, but I'm going to side with Green and White.
Green and White for Tim. Alex, what about yourself?
We've ended up on the same thing, but I like Young Champion, but it just seems that he's just not quite the same since his little setback last year where he missed a bunch of time. Green, like you said, Green and White's going to sit that trip and be right there. And then maybe from the back, Dancing Code. He kind of comes running, so if they get a little pace on, maybe he can fly in there for 3rd. But I do like those 2. And Young Champion's kind of a nice horse. And you end up with Zac Purton riding for John Size here.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a clean sweep for Green and White, though, because I'm pretty keen on Green and White too, with Huey aboard from that nice inside draw. The last race we're going to look at is the Hong Kong Classic Mile, race 8 on the card. First leg of the Classic Series. Number 1, Packing Hermit, overcame a wide post to finish well for 4th last out in the Racing Club Cup. The winner that day was 2 Ruby Lot, who was given a great ride by Brenton Avdallah. 3 Davino, been consistent this campaign. 1 on HKIR day when we were all there. 6 Johannes Brahms, ran into plenty of trouble behind Ruby Lot last out. Forgive run there. And 7 Cap Ferrat, only the 1 run in Hong Kong, went 2nd and can probably improve on that. Speed Map, Tim, shows number 8 Glory Elite taking up the running. Who do you like in the final feature race of the day?
Yeah, this is a really good little contest, isn't it? And of course, we should point out to people watching the podcast as well, this is the first leg of the Triple Crown for the 4-year-olds, and they'll be hoping, some of these will be hoping to make it through to the Derby and run well there. But I've ended up, the 2 I like are Packing Hermod and Johan Brahm. Now, Packing Hermod, as you mentioned, ran very well in 4th last time out. He snagged back from a high draw that day, and he made up a lot of territory over the 7 furlongs. He finished in behind Ruby Lot, and Johan Brahm finished 3rd, having not had the rub of the green in the race. However, that was under handicap conditions, and he was under these conditions, he's on £7 better terms with the winner and £10 better terms with the 3rd. And I'd also like to think he's drawn in the middle this time. I'd like to think he'll be ridden a little bit closer to the pace. this will be his first time over this trip, and I suppose the jury's out a little bit whether he runs the mile. But the way he ran on last time, that would kind of suggest he will run a mile. And we'll get back to that man again, Zac Purton. I've got no doubt he would have had the choice of a few here. And who's he opted for? Packing Hermod. He's ridden this fella 3 times for 3 wins. So he's going to be my on-top selection. I'm going to throw in Johan Brahm, who finished 1 spot in front of the selection last time. And as you mentioned, Brownie didn't have a lot of luck that day. So I think he's got to be the danger. But as I mentioned a moment ago, he is now on £10 worse terms with the selection. But they'd be my top 2. And the other one I'd mention quickly is Mickley from the John Size Yard. Another one's got the blinkers on for the first time. He's very good over here. He strung together a 3-timer. For Ed Bethel, won the Britannia Stakes. He's gone over to Hong Kong. He's got the 1 win from a handful of starts, but he hasn't had a lot of luck on a couple of occasions. The only thing with Mickley is from the 13, they're going to ride him cold, so you'll probably need a bit of luck. But he's already shown that he'll get a mile and further, so he'll certainly be hitting the line.
So Packing Hermod for Tim, 1 to beat 6 Johannes Brahms and a watch on 9 Mickley. What about you, Alex?
He's been my horse all along, and I'm going to go with the Meydan. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Cap Farah, I like him. I like him here. His breeze this week, early in the week, was very nice, and they were happy with that. This is one of the few races, and we talked about Zac Purton's illustrious career. He has not won the Classic Mile, and I do think Packing Hermod probably is. He definitely is the horse to beat. To me, he looks like one that's a little bit of a grinder, and I don't know over the 1600 if he's going to have the same turn of foot he's had at the 12 or the 14. But he should get a much better ride, a much better trip, and he's run much better for Purton on him. So I'm going to go with Cap Farah over Packing Hermod and Ruby Lot. And there's other than the weights, like Tim said, there's not much between those two, I think. And I think maybe Ruby Lot has a little bit better turn of foot over the later stages of the race. But again, that could be just the weight that we've seen in the last couple of runs. But Cap Farah for me, and I think he might be one to look out for, especially as they step up to the 1800 and the 2000 meters.
Nice. Well, thank you for those selection, boys. And it should be a great card at Sha Tin. On Friday, Thursday night North American time, Chinese New Year race day there. Plenty happening. Make sure you tune in. Tim, we better let you go because I know you've got to get off to the Sky Sports Racing Studios for a little bit of US racing this evening.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm in there until the late hours, 10 o'clock, enjoying the American action. I'll just leave you a couple of other selections on that card on Friday as well. I think Packing Angel will be very tough to beat in the finale. Very promising horse. He's going up in weight, got more on his plate here, but he looks a good one in the making. And I thought Sonny the Best. He's now won 2 from 9. He was a winner last time out. He goes around in the penultimate race. I think he might be a little bit of a slow burner that's just getting better as he goes along. He does move up in grade, but he carries a lot less weight at this level. So I thought Sonny the Best, I think, is horse number 11 in the penultimate race, and Packing Angel, who is the 3 runner in the finale, might be the 2 best bets on the card.
Hey, Tim, Packing Angel did have a foot abscess this week, and he missed 2 days of training. So just a heads up on that one.
I didn't know.
Take a look at the vet report on him. He was back on the track, I believe, on Tuesday morning on the small all weather, but he'd had a foot abscess. So just a heads up.
Well, he's still in. Hopefully, if they've got any doubts, hopefully they'll take him out. But yeah, that is a little bit of a concern. Thanks for that, Alex.
We will share Tim's top tips, of course, on the Hong Kong Racing North America X channel as we do each and every card. Boys, thank you very much for joining us for another edition of the Hong Kong Racing Show.
Cheers. Thanks, Brownie.
And have fun in the Sky Sports Racing Studios, Tim, for a bit of late side, stateside. And we will see you all next time on the Hong Kong Racing Show. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy all the coverage from Chinese New Year race day at Sha Tin, and hope you find plenty of winners.